Alright. Only thing about gloves. Can't wear two gloves. Actually, do a video. Good morning, everyone. Here's the sweetest girl apple. Going for our walk. Okay. I'm going to switch back and forth anyway. That way I can keep my gloves on. It is cold. Turn it off first. Actual cold morning here in Virginia we've had. We hadn't really gotten below freezing. It was cold yesterday, but I don't think it actually got below 32. It was actually 31 this morning when I got up. I had to get blood work done this morning, so this is a bit later of a walk than yesterday. Yesterday was an early morning walk. Still frost all over the ground. Still super cold, but this morning not so bad. Quite a bit less cold. Still cold, but not as bad anyway. Walk past the construction crew. Wait a second. It's later than I left yesterday because the mailman is delivering. So to be fair, he usually delivers a bit later than this. It's only 10:30, but anyway, continuing from yesterday's thinking about the whole Dungeons and Dragons campaign idea. Expand on it a bit this morning. Had some time to think about it, and I think what I want to do is take my life story, not all of it, but a lot of things I've struggled with in life, and try and put it into a fantasy campaign that anybody can run through. So, some of the things that I dealt with as a kid was bullying, parents who were somewhat religious fanatics to a degree, and then later in life, some abuse from people in church. Not the priest, weirdly enough. I almost feel unique in that respect that the people at the church that were inappropriate with me were not clergy. But I know not. I'm just joking. But anyway, and then young adulthood, discovering alcohol, and then discovering how bad it was for me, becoming an alcoholic, beating alcoholism, unfortunately using weed to beat it, and then having to get rid of weed afterwards because realizing it just was not working for me. I just became dependent on it instead of the alcohol, but obviously much less toxic of a substance to be dependent on, but it still didn't really help me grow as a person. It was just sort of delaying things until I could handle it. Loneliness, difficulty making friends, feeling like an outsider, never really feeling like I belonged anywhere. Everywhere I went, just kind of feeling like I was on the outside looking in. I never felt like I was one of the gang, I was always the odd kid. And then, even as an adult, the odd adult who isn't like everyone else. That's how it feels. I know I'm not unique in that respect, but I just never, found a group of friends that I felt like I belonged that much. I always felt like the one who was tag along, or part of the group but not part of the inner group. And my thoughts were, what if I took all of those struggles and tried to put them into a campaign? How would it go? Because it would need to be generic enough and vague enough that anybody could play it, right? And any DM running the campaign who picks it up, if it's there's a plane in the background. There's multiple streaks of planes in the background, huh? For all you conspiracy nerds who think that it's chemtrails. It's not. It's just planes. But especially these. These are pretty standard looking planes. Nothing crazy about them. Those always crack me up. But how would I implement it in a way that it would be work for everyone? And so obviously not everyone would be tempted by alcohol to become an alcoholic. Not everyone would be other substances, or not everyone would have my struggles. But what I thought would be interesting is to make a campaign, and again, this would sort of be a solo campaign to start. At least that's how I would write it, but it would be written in such a way that you could run it with a group. But the idea would be simply to subject the group to difficulties that something like that would make it easier. So my thought was, instead of it being alcohol, I would make a custom substance in the campaign that the party or the individual, depending on who's running it, stumbles across. And at first, man, if they are tempted by it and choose to use it, it makes everything easier. In fact, I would show other people using it where it would make combat easier. It would make charisma rolls and bluff rolls and persuasion checks and all the type of stuff that you have to do in a campaign. I think perception rolls. But this particular substance, when you first take it, it seems like everything's easier, and you're more successful at everything when you take it. And then the side effects start to kick in, and then the dependency starts to kick in, the addiction starts to kick in, and then not taking the substance, you get penalties to your rolls. And the longer you take it and the more you take it, the less benefit you get and the more downside you get. And so that would be one way to sort of cathartically detail my issues with substances through a campaign. And the other thought I had is, well, what if for the religious stuff, I mean, that's actually pretty easy. Make a campaign where one particular religion is the primary in the region, and so if you play a character that follows that religion, at first it's like, oh, well, I'm accepted because I'm a member of this religion. But then there's an in group, and any member of the party is not in that group. And so while at first it seems like, oh, well, we get all these benefits because we're part of Apple. Get over here. Stop running into the road. I swear, it's the most annoying thing when I walk this dog. She wants to walk in the middle of the road. And I'm just like, you don't want to sniff anything in the road. So you want to walk in the road and then have to cross back over in front of me constantly to sniff the stuff that you actually want to sniff. But yet you want to run back into the road every time. And it's like, it's very irritating because it's like, I don't want you in the road. It makes it annoying trying to walk you. And also, you're a dog. And it's black asphalt. Even if it's cold out, like, I get it. But at the same time, like, it's hot out. She still wants to try and do it. I'm like, you're going to burn your feet, dog. It's not smart. I didn't ever train her to heel, though. So that's probably on me. Probably do need to work on that. I just shortened up her leash. So. She's being silly. Anyways. But that would be the whole, and then everybody's parents, of course, are members of the religion, but, they also put pressure on the players to stay, even though as you progress through the campaign, more and more bad things happen to the group because of the religion, because of members of the religion who are fanatical. And, my issues with religion always were surrounding that the people who seem to take it the most seriously were the worst people. On the surface level, they seemed like good people because they kept doing visible things through the church that made them seem like they were very generous, they were very helpful and all that. And then when you find out who they really were under the surface, they were the worst. They were the most judgmental, the most sinful and corrupt, if you will. And it pushed me away from religion just because, or at least organized religion, because I couldn't stand being around people who acted like good people on a surface, that fake smile and the fake attitude, but then when you find out who they really were, they were hiding all of their faults, rather than, what I've learned that certainly helps me get better and move forward as a person is not hiding my faults, just being honest about them. So, the idea would be to put that into the campaign, and have the players have to navigate it and come to their own conclusions in the game about, the best way to move forward. And then, the players are outsiders because, if they accept, the mission from the king or whatever, and I'd try to come up with something going on, some catalyst for, adventure. All good campaigns have something to drive them forward. A demon invasion, a mysterious plague. There's plenty of cliche examples there, but I try to come up with something. There's always got to be a big bad evil guy trying to mess up everything, and the heroes have to vanquish him in some way. But accepting the quest, sort of everybody knows that they're on that mission, and instead of supporting them necessarily, they're looked down on. Oh, so you're the special ones that are supposed to save the day, and everyone's sort of cynical and less than helpful, or at least less helpful than the players would want them to be. And so then they have to decide, do we make it a public thing that this is what we're doing? Because being public about it won't necessarily bring the support they need. Or do we hide it? But then we don't have any notoriety. Nobody knows what we're doing. So who are these strangers wandering around? Kind of make them try and figure out what's the best way to proceed. So I think that could be fun. And can expand on that. Hopefully get a chance to work on it a little bit today. I got some stuff I gotta take care of with work. My kid is having back pain. Poor kid. He had a tethered spine surgery at the end of April this year. He's still recovering from it, and we got an MRI scheduled for next week, but just this week, the week before, he started experiencing tension, pain, just regular discomfort in that area, as well as like in his feet. And we're concerned that perhaps either it's the nerves regenerating and healing and recalibrating, if you will, and causing him the discomfort, or, and this would obviously be the bad news, if this is the case, it's retethering, or it's already retethered in one spot or another, which would require more surgery. But we'll have the MRI next week, and that will tell us one way or another what's going on. If it is retethering, we'll know, because you'll see the fat deposits on the MRI, and you can kind of see the spinal cord and tension in the spinal cord near the fat deposits, which is what all the doctors missed the first time around. I mean, he had an MRI, and you could see that on the MRI, but the experts that we took him to, and I say experts in a very, very air quotey context, because boy did they not have a clue what they were actually talking about or doing. They did not know the medical stuff they should have known. You call yourself a medical expert, but you did not know what you were talking about, because they kept telling us that there was nothing wrong with his back. And then we finally get to the right expert who goes, oh yeah, he's kind of tethered in multiple spots when I look at the MRI. Like, this is textbook. And we're going, like 5 different spine experts were like, no, he's fine. Very annoying. But anyway, we'll know once we get the MRI what's causing it. And hopefully either they can prescribe him something that'll help, or tell us, hey, just, hold down the fort. He's going to be fine, but it's going to be uncomfortable while it heals, which we're hoping that, even though that's not fun, having to tell soon to be 6-year-old, but he's 5 right now, that he just has to deal with pain for a bit. Hopefully it's that and not retethering, because that would require another, like, a keyhole operation or something like that. He had a more invasive surgery in April. They had to really cut him open, but if it's just retethered in like one spot, hopefully they can just like keyhole in there and untether it instead of having to open up his whole back again, because that was quite the ordeal. But anyway, I'm done with the walk, and I think these ideas are going to be really fun to implement in a campaign. I still have the world that I created back when I used to play Dungeons & Dragons a lot. It's sitting on my computer somewhere. And I'm going to dig it up and retool it and kind of figure out the starting area, I'm going to have it mirror my life a bit. So I think we'll have the starting area be kind of a mountainous area, because that's where I grew up, and then have the party have just moved to a hotter, more southern destination, since I moved from North Carolina to South Carolina in my early adulthood, and just kind of pick out some details from South Carolina that were different from North Carolina and make that part of my world, so to speak, and design encounters and situations around the stuff that I ran into and the problems that I had after moving with my wife. So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun to do, and like I said, it should be healing for me to get that stuff out there, but maybe in a way that can help other people too. So we'll see you next time, everybody. Like I said, I'm going to try and make this a daily thing, and then hopefully maybe once a week start uploading a video of some of the details of the campaign and what I'm planning and how I'm going to implement it. So see you next time, guys. Thanks.